Hey, everybody. Welcome again to one of my Facebook Lives. Good to see you. If you're here currently, drop a comment in the chat. And if not, if you're joining in the replay, give me a thumbs up so I know you guys stopped in. So, again, these Facebook Lives are supposed to be all about a conversation. So, asking questions, we can go through some of that stuff, but I'll also be discussing a topic relative to retirement planning. And I want to be sure that it's very clear up front everything about retirement planning is on the table except the financial stuff. That is not who I am, and that is not who you want to hear advice from on financial stuff. So let's get started. So today we're talking about something that I think is one of the toughest things, right? In our last video, last live, we talked about how retirement is one of the top 10 most stressful transitions in life that we as humans experience. And I think one of the most difficult things to deal with when you retire is what happens after that job title's gone, right? How do you handle that question? So, what do you do at that party or that family gathering after you retire? A lot of people really struggle with that. Sometimes it causes you to freeze, and you just, what that is your mind is trying to figure out how to handle that question. And if this has happened to you, you are in the right place. And I hope this video finds it, or I hope you find this video helpful. So today we're going to cover what that freeze means and why it happens, how you deal with it, right? 3 typical ways to answer that question, and then some deeper work you can do to kind of help you get past it and be ready for the next time. Because I'll tell you what, from personal experience, when you retire or when you get laid off or when you leave a job, that question is going to come up more than just once. So best to be prepared for it. You'll feel more comfortable and it'll make that conversation go that much better. So why that freeze feels so awkward. So what do you do? Seems like an innocent question, but when you've just retired, when you're just kind of learning how to deal with retirement, right? It can be a little awkward. And because I think the main reason is for 30 or 40 years, you had a job title. And that job title, whether it was I'm a teacher, I'm a VP, I'm a manager, that job title gave you social credibility. It gave you a quick answer of who you are, right? And it told the person that asked the question and you, this is who I am. I'm a VP, I'm a teacher, I'm a manager, right? Quick, simple social cred that, hey, yeah, I'm working, this is who I am, this is the type of stuff I do. Great conversation starter. But here's the problem that your brain struggles with. When you retire, that simple answer doesn't exist. You are no longer the VP, the teacher, the manager, right? So your brain has trouble figuring out, well, how do I answer that question? I don't know who I am, right? Unless you've done the deep work, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. Who am I, right? That's the question, and that's why really when you lose that job title, it's really an identity crisis because you're trying to figure out, oh my gosh, who am I now that that title is gone? And I think that's what most people really struggle with is, if you think about it, we lose that job title. And so we don't think of ourselves anymore as the teacher. But let's be honest, when you had that job, you did so much more than just teach. You did so much more than be the VP that showed up on your business card, right? Maybe you organized a charity drive for the company. Maybe you mentored young students. Maybe you coached the softball team, right? You were so much more than that teacher. And that person who you were that did all that extra stuff is still in there. It still wants to help. It still wants to create. It still wants to be useful. Still wants to help others if that's who you are. And so the whole goal with trying to re-identify and who this identity is of who you are now, that's what that's all part of, is trying to figure out, okay, this next chapter of my life, if I want to make it the best ever, what am I going to do? Who am I going to be, more importantly, right? Who am I going to be? This, and we're going to talk about it in a second, but this all comes down to your core values. So I remember the first time. I remember the first time I was laid off, and someone asked me, "So, what do you do?" I really struggle with that, right? Not only because being laid off usually ends up being some follow-up questions that necessarily you don't really want to go down that way, but it also puts people that ask the question in an awkward position as you freeze and you try to think like, oh, how am I going to answer this, right? You can just feel the awkwardness between the two of you. It's kind of mind-boggling. So drop a yes if that's ever happened to you in the comments, whether you've ever been caught in that situation where you just kind of freeze when someone says, so what do you do? So here's the thing. Um, you're not broken, right? And we talked a little bit about that in the last video. This is just a normal part of this major transition called retirement. And there's so much that goes into it, as far as what you're doing and how you're doing it. And when you're planning that retirement, there's so much more, whether you've done some work up front to kind of think about it. And let's be honest, most of it's probably on the financial side. But most of it comes with, do I have enough money? But there's so much more to it. And that's what my Facebook page, Reinventing Retirement, is all about, because there is so much more to this. And identity is one of those. So let's talk about three options that you have to kind of answer that question so that you can be prepared the next time it happens, because and I can guarantee you'll be asked that question more than once. So lead with what you're exploring, right? Hey, instead of saying, I'm retired, say, well, I just entered this new transition in my life. For 30 years, I was a teacher, and now I'm exploring what else is out there. So right now, I'm really interested in photography or art or whatever the case may be. This frames it as a transition, as something new for you, as something you're exploring, right? And it really opens up the conversation, because they can ask you questions about what it feels like to be newly retired, or what are you doing with photography, or how are you pursuing that interest? So it keeps the conversation going versus you freezing and you kind of saying, excuse me one second. Next up, own the transition. Someone says, so what do you do? Say, well, I'm in this transitional phase. I'm trying to figure this out. It was 35 years and I loved every minute of what I did. And so I'm really excited for retirement, and I'm looking forward and trying to figure out exactly what I want to do. Why this is great is it gives you confidence. It takes away the awkwardness, and it provides some honesty, right? People love when you're honest. They respect you when you're honest, right? Hey, listen, I don't have this all figured out yet. I'll be honest with you. I just retired 2 months ago, 6 months ago. I'm still figuring it out. And it's okay. You don't need to have all the answers to, 2 months, 6 months, 8 months into a retirement. This is all new, and it's a major transition. So don't feel you have to have all of the answers. And lastly, the confidence play, right? This is where you come off as confident. So what do? Man, I am retired. I love what I'm doing, and this is what I'm doing. Tell them all the things that you're doing in retirement. And a lot of this comes with, having prepared for retirement, having done the inner work, because that's where you come off as more confident, and you planned, and you know what you're doing. So put a, 1, 2, or 3. Which one resonated most with you as far as what you're doing now with retirement? So here's some key questions. This is called doing the inner work. And this helps you prepare not only for this question, but it also helps you prepare for retirement, right? So I want you to think about these questions that I'm going to give you as something to think about, something to, ponder, right? Put on some nice meditation music or soft music, light a candle, and just kind of work your way through these questions. It's a great way to, if you haven't retired yet, it's a great way to kind of get you prepared for retirement. And if you have retired, it's a great way to get you ready for the questions and what you want to do with this next chapter. So the first question is who am I? And now that I'm not defined by my business card. Who am I now that I'm not defined by my business card? It's huge. And we talked a lot about that earlier in the video, right? That is huge. Number two, what do I actually value? Not what I think I should value, but what do I actually value? This comes down to core values, right? And what you really believe in. And you've been busy these last 30 or 40 years, having a job, raising a family, running a household, and all these other things that kind of took away what you may actually value and what you want to do. And you did what you had to do. And so this might actually be a very tough question if you're really honest with yourself, because through those years, you've pushed aside or pushed to the back of your brain many of the things that you love to do or that you valued because you didn't have the time. You had other responsibilities and those took precedence. So really sit with that for a while. Think about core values. Am I creative? Am I helpful? Am I kind? Am I empathetic? What is it that drives you? What lights you up? What gives you energy? And that helps you figure out who you actually want to be and what you actually value. And that's where you'll find value. Number two, kind of ties into that last one, but what makes you feel alive? What lights you up? What excites you? And maybe it's something you haven't done for years, right? Because you haven't had the time and it wasn't a priority. Or maybe it's something a friend talked about, pickleball, golf, whatever it is, photography class, art class. Maybe it's something that someone else talked about that you're like, yeah, that could be interesting. Give it a shot. Try it out. What's the worst that could happen? You do it a couple times, you realize, nah, it's not as great as I thought. And you move on and you try something different. And last, what makes you feel joy and fulfillment after you do it? So when you experience something or when you maybe do a volunteer opportunity or something like that, when you finish, take a second to think about it and say, how did that feel? Did that light me up? Did that excite me? Did that make me feel good? Right? And think about what that means to you and if it's important to you. And if it is, and if you enjoyed it, go find more opportunities like that. Find what else you can do. Right? So think about those questions, and put in the comments, what question that you are really going to focus on when you do this inner work. So again, you're not broken. Retirement is a part of life and you're lucky to be able to do it, but it doesn't mean that it's not stressful and it's not emotional. So really give some thought as to who you were and who you want to be. And know that the person you were had more to your life and more to your personality than just being the teacher or just being the manager. All right. So figure out what makes you tick, what lights you up, so that you're less uncomfortable when that inevitable question of, so what do you do, comes up. Because it will, I can guarantee it. And so you're not your job title. You are who you are. You are your values. You are your beliefs. You are what you enjoy. That's who you are. So keep that in mind. And if you are excited about this next chapter, give me a thumbs up in the comments and know that this can be the absolute best chapter of your life. If you put the time in, you plan, you experiment, and you're open and you're curious. Don't be locked into doing the same old, same old. Get out there, experience what's new, experience what you want to do, and just enjoy it. Enjoy the game, enjoy the plan, enjoy the class, whatever it is. Find what you love and do it. That's the best advice I can give you. So that's it for our time today. Thank you for being here live if you were, and if you joined by replay, I really appreciate you doing that as well. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day. And don't forget to subscribe or follow me on Facebook, and make sure you get a notice the next time I'm going live. So everyone have a great day. Talk to you soon.